coinciding with President Trump's current Middle East trip that he's been going on. Obviously, everybody's heard about the big, beautiful plane, the beautiful plane that they've given us, that the Qatari government has given officially. The Defense Department is now going to own this plane for the next few years, and then it will go to the Trump Presidential Library, which is maintained by the National Archives after he leaves office. But yes, the Qatari government gifted the United States, or Donald Trump, with a plane worth $400 million that they're going to use as Air Force One for the next few years. Okay? A lot of this stuff's been going on. None of this is surprising or in any way kind of new, right? But as I was going through all the news articles and all the stuff that's been going on the last couple of weeks, not just with this Qatari plane, but kind of all the stuff that's been going on around the Middle East, a surprising and kind of disturbing thought came into my mind. Okay? And it's this, okay? And anybody who has watched this show for any period of time knows that Jay and I are not fans of the Trump administration writ large, okay? We're not, okay? We have been exceedingly critical of the Trump administration on this channel. But I do feel the need to be honest. And as I was looking at a lot of stories that have not been reported heavily, unless you know where you're looking, right? A thought popped into my head. And it disturbs me. And that is, Orange Man might be the guy to accomplish something we've been trying to get to for 70 years. He actually may be able to broker a Middle East peace. And that disturbs me a little bit, both by the means and the fact that this is how this is going to go down. And that is this. Okay? I do not believe that Donald Trump holds any deep religious or faith-based anything. This guy is greedy. He loves money. And the only people he respects more than himself is people that have more money than him, right? Of which there's no short list, right? Elon, Jeff Bezos, da-da-da-da-da. But if you pay tribute to the Orange Man, he will listen to you. And he will do what you say because you have more money than him and he wants more of your money, right? And the other thing that a lot of these countries have, namely Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Qatar, is they've got a lot of money and they're not afraid to spend it. Hence the $400 million plane. Hence Riyadh very quietly doing stuff. Hence Trump Tower Abu Dhabi, right? And again, one of those little stories that didn't get a lot of play. Qatar has been at the forefront of the negotiations between Israel and the Palestinians and things like that. And Qatar is on the side of the Palestinians. And then very quietly a couple weeks ago, the Trump administration agreed to a ceasefire with the Houthis. And they stopped bombing the Houthis. They just stopped. They just stopped bombing the Houthis. And then the Houthis shot a missile at Ben Gurion Airport in Israel. And then the Trump administration went, okay. And they didn't do anything. And now Trump's over there. And he said something that I feel was one of the most honest motherfucking things he's ever said. He said, in Riyadh, transcending the ancient conflicts of tired divisions of the past and forging a future where the Middle East is defined by commerce, not chaos. And I said, that right there, that is his honest opinion, right? Look at all this nice place. Let's make some money over here, people. And yesterday, the Republican Party, writ large, 200 Republicans, sent him a letter to the president. And 200 Republicans in Congress are not very happy with the president right now because Steve Witkoff, his chief Middle East advisor, is about to negotiate a new deal with Iran where we will drop the sanctions against Iran in exchange for a new deal on their nuke program. And the Republican Party is not happy with this because they want war with Iran. And he also spent time in that, Trump spent time in that fight, his speech in Riyadh, criticizing the neocons who keep dragging us into wars. And as I sat and looked at all these little tiny things, right? The Iranians coming out publicly and saying, yeah, we're close to a deal. The Houthis firing at Israel and the Trump administration going, and signing a ceasefire with the Houthis. Him going to Riyadh, and by the way, he's doing a full Middle East tour and isn't going to Israel, which, by the way, in the Israeli press is being played as a huge snub against Netanyahu. Trump's spending all this time in the Middle East and he's not going to Israel. And he's dealing with the Qataris and the Iranians who are allied with Hamas and Hezbollah. And he's doing something here. So the question that I pose to the audience and the question that I pose to Jay is let's take all this a little bit at face value. If the cost of peace in that region is that Orange Man gets to fucking walk out of office and him and his family walk out richer than they've ever been in their entire lives because of his graft and his greed. But if the end result of his graft and greed, because these people have the money to bribe him to do things that no other president would do, right? Namely, just be like, yeah, sure, why not? Because he doesn't have that faith base, that thing, that feeling about Israel. Would it be worth it? Is it worth it? If he could do it. If he signs a peace deal with the Iranians, the Qataris, Saudi, UAE, and Qatar, right? Normalization with movement toward a Palestinian state, because that's what Qatar is going to want. That's what the UAE is going to want. It's what Saudi is going to want. Is it worth it?
I am going to say no.
Why do you say no?
That is my stance. Oh gosh. So for one, I am no longer Christian. But this gives me very like Antichrist vibes.
Yeah.
Of, like, you know, the golden child that's gonna bring peace.
Uh-huh.
Like, not saying that he is, not saying that I believe that.
Nope.
But I don't like this because one, to me, this is kind of like a deal with the devil. I'm gonna give you peace in the Middle East, and at the same time, I'm going to like gut American values here at home. Like, I'm gonna cause so much chaos and havoc for the U.S. citizens, but we're gonna have peace in the Middle East. Don't like that.
So here's the thing. I think he's going to do that anyway. Peace in the Middle East or not. That's our internal, that's domestic politics, and that's going to get handled domestically. We can talk about that in a second because they were at the Supreme Court today arguing about who's got the power there. I think he's going to do that either way, right? Really, he's going to do that domestic bull crap either way, and I don't agree with that, and we're never going to agree with that. But
Yeah.
I'm asking, fuck it. If if bribing this motherfucker with $20 billion worth of crap brings us normalization and a peace accord in that region, is it worth letting him take the money?
No. I because I think nothing good can come from greed. And to me, okay, let's put this in simple terms of the night. Superman. Okay.
Superman.
Um, I think we have like a Lex Luthor. I mean, he's not
Mhm.
as cool as Lex Luthor. But he probably wishes he was. I I have seen some animated movies and some comics where like Lex Luthor, he's like the bad guy, but he's not really the bad guy. Like he's actually working with like the Justice League to help like bring peace because like they have a common enemy and they need to
Mhm.
band together. Blah 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 blah. I kind of feel like that's what this is. I don't know. You when your intentions are greed, there's a time I believe when you're just going to become greedier and greedier and more greedier. I don't know if that made sense.
It
That
does.
was like a word salad, but um, I don't think anything can come good from this. I think it would be like good for a few years, and then it's gonna fall apart. I I don't know. I think we need our Superman to come down, not take a side, and just bring peace. Which I also kind of oddly didn't really agree with in the comics. But anyways, I don't think anything good can come from this. Like not long term. Short term, sure. Yeah. 5 years, 10 years, I don't know. Um 50, 60 years, completely not.
50, 60 is hard for me to kind of put into a context, right? And obviously, I've spent a lot of my life both in this region and studying this region and the conflicts that happen there. Um, Maybe there's a part of me that's like, at least this motherfucker will sit down with Hamas, right? Like, woo. Hmm. Um, I generally want to agree with you that nothing good comes from greed, right? Um, I guess I'm so tired. And maybe this also comes from a perspective of I've had to sit in that area and see those conflicts firsthand that I want to almost take anything over that. Like if we could get a good 10 or 15 years where that whole region wasn't a raging dumpster fire, I would feel better. Cuz to be clear, everything that's happening there is our fault, right? It was the US and Britain and France and all of us after World War II. We screwed that up royally. It's our fault that it's that screwed up. And I don't know if it's a situation where we're like, we need to be out of this completely and just say screw it. Like we're just not gonna interfere or get involved in any way, shape, or form, or whether it's our responsibility to try and fix what we screwed up so bad. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Am I making sense at all?
It makes sense, yes. And like, okay, so take a step back, apply the scientific method. I'm heavily biased against Trump. Like, honestly, I'm gonna be skeptical of every
Oh,
single thing this guy does.
I'm skeptical. Believe me,
So
I'm skeptical.
I, yeah,
But that's again where I come into this place of I'm skeptical, right? But again, the one thing I believe in is his greed. The one thing I'm not skeptical about is his greed. And if his greed led the United States to normalized relations with Iran, where we had an embassy in Tehran again, right? Would I take that? That's the part where I struggle, right? Where I go, I might take it. I might take it. Yeah, I know he wants to go in there and him and his rich buddies want to take as much cash as they can get. But if we had an embassy in Tehran again and normalized relationships with those countries, would I take it? And that's the question that I'm having a hard time answering.
yeah, I don't know, man. I think
I think it's right to be skeptical, but that's kind of
yeah,
the foundation of the question.
I I think
It's difficult.
it's a very complex problem because no matter how I look at it, right? I simply do not understand the culture over there, and I probably never will because I could read about it,
You have to
but
go. You
you
have
have
to,
to go and you have to feel it.
and that's again where having been there, right? And and having been there, and here's the thing: I met so many wonderful people, right? In that portion of the world, people who I absolutely adored. Um, and it wasn't until I got older, and I remember talking about this when I went through all my VA stuff, right? And I remember talking to in this case, the shrink who was evaluating me for my post traumatic stress disorder, and she was like, how has this impacted? I was like, here's the thing. At 21, 22, I didn't have the words to understand what I was feeling, right? It wasn't until I got into my 30s that I really understood how that impacted me. And really it made me sad, and I've talked to Jessica about that. Like I would love to go back to Baghdad. I would love to go back to Iraq without a gun in my hand. Um because I would love to see that place. Because there are really some beautiful places there. There are some really cool things in that country. And what we did and what the various regimes did and everything that's happened there, I'm just like, it just makes me sad. I'm just like, can we just not for a little while? Can this place just go back to being? Because it's nice. It's genuinely kind of a nice place, you know, and the people there are wonderful. And I'm just like, how do we? And I guess that's why I asked the question. Is I'm like, man, if we could just get 15, 20 years of just let's calm it down, you know, would it be worth it? It's hard.
I yeah. Uh I don't know. I don't think I would take it. I want peace. I do.
I guess we've tried so many other solutions. Like,
And I can see like where you're
what now?
like take a different approach, try to speak their language, like what motivates them, what motivates Trump. I totally get it.
Mm-hmm.
It does make sense. The it's like the how can you trust?
Oh, I don't.
Yeah, and I mean that's the issue. Is like you can't trust, like, I don't know.
That's my only
Someone.
problem. Now I want to push back against something in the chat right now.
Oh gosh.
Nothing is worth Trump getting. Here's the thing. If that motherfucker got bonked on the head tomorrow and used his political instincts and his willpower to bring about universal health care in America, I'm sorry, I'm going to give him credit. I'm not going to cut off our nose to spite our face, right? Because the problem that we've had on the left, as somebody on the left, is that we have done a lot of cutting off our nose to spite our face, right? We do this a lot on the left, where it's like Biden did as much as he could to forgive student loan. Could he do everything he wanted to do? Right? No, he couldn't. But can we give him credit for the good things that he did? And there's a lot of people on our side who are like, no, it doesn't matter. He still didn't do it. And this is why we lose, is because we won't give credit where credit is due, right? Do I think that he's going to necessarily accomplish this? No, I don't. I think he's fighting an uphill battle, right? But I think it's an interesting thing. And again, I'm seeing some weird things, again, that under any other administration, I'd be like, what the hell? You know? And here it's just as simple as, oh no, he just wants money. He didn't care about any of that stuff, right? You know? And so that's where I go. I'm going to push back, right? On, we can't give him credit for, again, look, if he does something. Oh no, and I don't believe, again, in chat, I don't believe he deserves to be forgiven. And I think when the historians write the history book of Donald Trump, no matter what he does, right? Let's say he accomplishes Middle East peace. It will always be tinged with the other crap that he did, right? He will never be on Mount Rushmore. Okay? But, you know, again, gotta give credit where it's due. He's not due it yet, but I thought it was an interesting question. So. But yeah, all right. That's enough of that one. Let us know what you think down in the comments below.